My name is Ennie Chipembere. I'm a Zimbabwean working in the International Secretariat of ActionAid as the International Women's Rights Technical Advisor. And today I'm here to talk to you about why as ActionAid we put women's rights at the center of all our work. So in summary, our analysis of as ActionAid, the vision is to end poverty, and in trying to achieve that, the analysis that we had when we made that decision of putting women at the center of our work was that poverty is both about material condition, but it's also about the position you have in society. So in this world, I don't know the actual statistics, but I know there are more women in this world. And so if we're going to have this grand vision of ending poverty, it then definitely means we have to look at what's happening to this huge population that we are trying to help. So in this world, the way men and women relate to each other, which is what we call gender relations, quite sadly, the gender relations are unequal. So what this means is the starting point for men and women in society is not at the same level. So if we're going to end poverty, we have to recognize that there is that difference, that the men are at a different position than women. So it also means in terms of our programming, it should aim at doing two things. First of all, it should aim at addressing the gap between men and women, the gap that has been formed because of examples. For example, if you look in Africa, in most of the countries where we work, there is a certain preference to boys, making sure that boys go to school over the girl child. And this is because there's the assumption that the girl child is going to get married, and so there's no need to educate that girl child. And there's this assumption that the boy child is going to be able to work, and when he works, he's going to be able to look after his family. But from what we know, from what we have seen, and what we are still seeing today, most of these sort of families where you have the father being the breadwinner and the woman is less educated, you will find that there is a lot of domestic violence in these family spaces. There are a lot of other issues that come with, for example, domestic violence like HIV. And the woman is therefore not empowered to either, for example, in terms of HIV, negotiate for condom use. And if you trace back the reason for that, it was because of a decision where there was preference over the boy child, instead of saying that both the boy child and the girl child should have equal opportunities in life. So if you want to track the reasons for poverty, for most of the people we work with, who are mostly women, you'll find that these reasons are based on unequal power relations. So it's not only, as I said in the beginning, in terms of material condition, your access to food, but it's also about your position, or the position you are accorded in society. So if you're going to end poverty, it means we don't only have to deal with supplying, for example, books in schools, or for example ensuring that people have something to eat, but we need to address issues around people's or women's position in society right from the beginning as the root cause of poverty. And for that reason, that's why most of our programs also try and address women-specific or girl-child-specific problems that stop them from having equal opportunities to enjoy a life of dignity, or to live a life of dignity and of enjoy their human rights. Then the other reason I said we try and then do two things from this analysis is we then also, through all our other thematic areas, have to ensure that they recognize that there is this difference between men and women, and the difference between the needs of girls and the needs of boys. So it means in our other programming, we do what is called gender mainstreaming. So it means we do thorough analysis of, if we are doing an education program, what is the impact of our intervention in terms of men and in terms of women, or in terms of young girls and young boys. and what are their specific needs, so that as we try and eradicate poverty, we are not blind to the needs of both sexes and are not actually responsible for increasing the gap between the two sexes. So for that reason, that's why we as ActionAid have made the very bold and appropriate position of putting women at the center of all our work and doing women's rights. Okay, for example, I've just come back from Kenya, Mombasa to be very specific, where our analysis of the problems in that particular area, where we are trying to help communities through income generation projects, through fisher farmer support so that they get out of poverty. But we also realize that a lot of the young girls in that area were failing to complete school. So from class 1 up to maybe class 4, you would have a lot of girls in school, you would have a lot of girls actually being the high performers. But from that class 5 going up to high school, they would begin to drop, they would not complete school. So what the Kenya Country Program, through working with the community people, they realized this was because a lot of the young girls were being sexually violated, and a lot of the young girls were also being bullied by boys in school. And so as a result of that, when they get to puberty, they wouldn't be able to know how to navigate that terrain and balance that terrain with performance in school. And at the same time, because it's a community that is living in abject poverty, a lot of them, you realize, because of the gender roles where women or girls are expected to do all the household chores. So when the girl comes back from school, she's expected to help with collecting firewood, with cooking, with fetching water, whereas the boy child is there studying. So as a result, that affects performance. So what the Kenya Country Program, the Mombasa Development Office, decided to do was to work with a local women's group called Sauti Akina Mama, which basically means a group of women or women's voice. And so they decided again to collaborate with teachers in school to form what are called girls forums. So basically, through these two interventions, which are girl or women specific, they are trying to address the gap that has emerged between, in terms of performance in school or completion rates in school, between boys and girls. So with Sauti, what they are doing is Sauti follows up on any, if there's a case of a perpetrator who is sexually violated a young girl in school, Sauti makes sure that they make sure that they guide and support the mother or the child, first of all, to go to the police to report the matter and make sure that the matter is taken up to court, and make sure that this girl child gets psychosocial support. And then even if the court case is going to drag for 2 or 3 years, which also happens because of the judicial system that is very weak and corrupt, they make sure that they provide accompanying support until that case is heard and until justice is addressed. And then in terms of the girls forums, because you know also empowerment starts with the self, starts with you before you go outside. So in the girls forums, the girls are supported